Mind if I share your table? I'm old enough to do a lot of things.
I'm on a budget, Sandy.
What?
I can't afford you.
He called me a whore.
Is that true?
I meant slut.
You think? Stay here, Sandy.
It's your last chance to walk away.
You're kidding? It's 5 against 1.
After paying for a parking slot, Charlie settles on the rooftop, rifle ready, eyes fixed on the street below. He drops the man in a suit on the bench, then shifts to the woman in a blazer and takes her out clean. Panic starts to spread, but he stays locked in. Shoots another woman mid-walk, then lines up the runners, one alone, one with a child, and hits both. Police arrive at the scene, but quickly pinpoint the marksman's position, even though he's already fled. Detective Emerson steps in and walks the perimeter, calmly piecing together how the shooter operated and exited. He also retrieves bullet shells from the spot, which are immediately bagged as evidence. The forensic team runs prints on the coin retrieved from the parking meter and finds a thumbprint of James Barr. Emerson leads a team straight to the suspect's home and finds him knocked out, bottles of pills most likely to blame. With enough to pin the shooting on him, they seize the man. A brief tour of the property confirms their suspicion. The same car spotted on CCTV fleeing the vantage point is parked in his garage, and he's got equipment for making bullets. At the station, the officer sits across from him while the man stays cuffed on the other end. He's silent and intense, staring through the officer who offers him a chance to make things easier, mostly for himself. They hand over a notepad, expecting him to waive his right to an attorney and confess, but instead he scribbles a name across the sheet, Jack Reacher, and tells them to find him. The officer takes the matter up with the district attorney, who's stunned that the man in question left no trace despite years in the military. His records show medals and missions even the senior officers never heard of. They both agree tracking him down would be near impossible unless he decides to show up himself. Right then, the man they're talking about walks in. They go straight to business, with the legend agreeing to share all he knows on the condition that he's taken to see the suspect, who's now in a coma after getting badly beaten on the way to lockup. Standing over the unconscious Barr on a hospital bed, he asks for access to the evidence already gathered, and the authorities don't allow it, and right after that, he makes a move for the door. They block his exit, not in a way he appreciates, though it's only to keep him from backing out of the deal, even suggesting it's wrong to walk out on his friend. He corrects that immediately. He's not friends with the guy. Helen walks in, calm but firm, taking a jab at Emerson and the DA for questioning her client without her present. She pauses when she sees the man in the room, clearly surprised that they managed to pull him in. He doesn't feed into it, and keeps a straight face until the two officers step out. As the pair leave too, he points out how odd the case is, considering she'll be facing off with her father, the district attorney. She tries tying his involvement to a personal bond with the suspect, but he shuts it down again, making it clear he's only here to bury the man. After they move to a restaurant to talk, he starts by questioning why she'd go against her father's office just to defend someone she barely knows, especially one he's convinced is guilty. She explains that she's just doing her job, and beyond that, she believes a few convictions have come too easy. The man still stands by what he thinks. Barr is guilty. Jack then lays out the suspect's background from his time in service. The man trained relentlessly as a sniper, but didn't fire a single live shot for nearly 2 years after landing in Iraq. Eventually, the urge to use that skill overtakes him, and he snaps, taking out 4 men 1 shot each. She asks how he managed to avoid prison, and she's told the men were part of a group that routinely assaulted local women. With that context, Command buried the case. Even after that, she insists Barr still deserves a fair trial and says she's committed to defending him, regardless of her father's record in court. She offers Jack a spot as her lead investigator, hoping to bring him in, but he just walks off. Just as she hits the gas to drive off, she slams the brake, stopping inches from the veteran, who's back on the condition that she digs into the victims too. He gets to work immediately, scanning through evidence and crime scene photos. Meanwhile, Helen sticks to her end, knocking on a door, and one victim's father lets her in after hearing her out. He talks about his daughter for a bit, but the tone shifts fast as he starts pressing her with questions, frustrated that she'd defend a man like Barr. The moment she gets uneasy and tries to leave, He orders her to sit, but she eventually bolts for the door instead, races to her car, only to run into her father waiting outside. The district attorney's already heard everything. His daughter's meetings with the families, and worse, her decision to bring Jack Reacher into it. He tells her to quit while she still can. It's not just a tough case, the entire weight of the system is stacked against the suspect. He also thinks she's only doing this to get back at him, but she won't hear it. Reacher has just finished a tour of a section of the station's weapons house, and as he's about to leave, he casually wonders why the shooter paid for his parking spot. Emerson doesn't dwell on it, but the other guy sees it as something worth noting. The kind of detail that usually means something. Before they split, the detective throws in a little test to check just how sharp the former soldier's memory is. At the club, later that night, with music thumping in the background, while Emerson is deep in thoughts, a young woman, Sandy, walks up to the lone man, trying to engage him, but his deadpan humor throws her off. Offended, she slams the table and stands up angrily, drawing the attention of her so-called brothers, 5 hotheads ready to rough him up for calling her names. Jack isn't eager for trouble and even warns Jeb, the one in front, to back off before it goes south, but the kid doesn't listen. He agrees to step outside with them and gives them one final warning, laying out how fights like these usually end badly for boys like them. Jeb charges first and gets put down with a punch, an elbow, and a sharp kick to the groin. The others hesitate, but still go at him, and in under 2 minutes, he drops them. Sirens blare nearby, prompting Sandy and the last 2 standing brothers to bolt, while the rest lie groaning on the ground. Before the cops take him in, he tries to get answers from the ringleader, asking who paid them to start the fight, but the boy fails to answer. At the holding cell, Emerson and Helen show up. They inform him that one of his victims might never regain full use of his legs. Reacher doesn't show much sympathy and tells them flat out he was set up, from the alias he gave Sandy, her sudden change in tone, the way the brothers showed up on cue, and how quickly the police arrived. He's sure someone pulled the strings. Emerson stays outside while the army guy runs through it all with Helen. He's later released and told there might be a plainclothes officer shadowing him just when he reports that he's being followed. Jack brushes that off, not buying it, but doesn't argue too much either. She then shares what she's uncovered about the victims. One was a nanny who had saved up for a long-awaited trip but chose to delay it to keep caring for a child she adored, only to get shot that day. Another was a cleaner, a single mom who'd put everything into raising her son right, and it paid off. He was flying high academically, yet she was killed while trying to secure baseball tickets. A third was a widow headed to the bank to secure a loan to save her late husband's struggling construction firm, a business she didn't care for but felt obligated to keep alive. Another victim had just picked out an anniversary gift for her husband before she was taken out. The last man had a falling out with his wife, but was ready to make peace because he had flowers with him until the bullet caught him. Back at the condo, Reacher throws out a theory that the woman who bought the watch and the guy with the flowers weren't strangers. They were cheating, probably meeting up in secret. He asks her to get Barr's financial records and a list of places he used to frequent to help him dig deeper. Later that night, the guy following Jack checks in and Charlie's not impressed. He calls him out for using local muscle, getting one of the boys killed, and still failing to handle a single ex-soldier. He doesn't care how tough the man is. What bothers him is that the whole setup's been messy. Then Zach steps in, quiet but unnerving. And right away, Jack's stalker looks down, too afraid to meet his eyes. The older man tells him to relax, starts talking about Siberia, about freezing nights, starvation, and how he once cut off his own thumb to survive. Now it's his turn, as Zek wants proof of loyalty the same way. Says if he's serious, he should take his left thumb clean off. The guy tries, but can't do it. And just like that, Charlie shoots him in the head. Helen hands over Barr's records while driving with the man beside her. He's starting to view the case differently now, thinking maybe the shooter had a partner, someone he trained with. Given Barr's quiet lifestyle and those long weekend drives, it wouldn't be strange if there was another ranger in the mix. His first stop is the spare parts shop Sandy had mentioned earlier. The guy at the front desk tries to get tough, threatening to call the cops, but the ex-soldier walks right past him into the back. He finds the girl in the staff room, clearly nervous. She blurts out her side, claims she was told he was a pervert by Jeb, which is why she was eager to see him get smacked around. But that's not what he's here for, as what he wants is an address. She gives it up and he asks for her keys next, technically Jeb's car, and takes it without fuss. Before leaving, he tells her to disappear for a while, hinting that things are about to spiral and she doesn't want to be around when it does. He pulls up at Jeb's place, with someone still trailing him. Outside, there is an old woman slouched by the entrance, staring blankly, like she's out of it. He tries a few light questions, but she doesn't even blink. Then he spots the pipe beside her, and figures she's probably strung out, so he heads inside. The second he steps in, she suddenly dials a number behind him. Clearly not as gone as she looked. Two guys jump him, though they're so sloppy they keep getting in each other's way. One accidentally knocks out the other, leaving himself exposed. The war vet doesn't waste the chance and grabs him, almost taking his eye out. The first one scrambles back into the fight, but it doesn't go well because the investigator slams his shiny head right into his partner's face. A third man suddenly pulls a gun on him from behind, but instead of panicking, the ex-soldier spins, disarms him, and crushes his arm. He grills him on Jeb, and the guy folds fast, saying something's definitely off and giving up his last known location. Jack takes the man's car and drives off again, still trailed by the same quiet shadow from earlier. Jack gets back to Helen with word that Jeb might be dead, though not from the beating, and shares what's been building in his head. He believes the way the shooter carried out the hit doesn't line up with how Barr would have done it. The choice of vantage point feels off, as Barr always positions with the sun at his back in these situations. Plus, he's not the sharpest marksman, but he wouldn't leave prints behind. The whole thing reeks of a setup. His habits, his bullets, even the coin with his fingerprint. It's all too deliberate. He's convinced Barr called for him because he knew he wouldn't chase shadows if something didn't smell right. But Helen's had enough and doesn't need any more conspiracy talk. Her reason for taking the case was never to clear a killer, just to give him a fair shot at trial. Right now, it's looking like her dad was right, and this so-called investigator is scrambling for meaning where there's none. She sees a man too tied to the past to see clearly. He pushes back, steady and calm, giving her just enough to second-guess herself. Then he points to the car that's been tailing him all day and tells her to run the plate. Somehow, word gets out, and Zek hears first, while Charlie wastes no time tipping off the driver that he's been made. At the office, Jack scribbles something on a small piece of paper and passes it to Helen. Before she checks it, her phone rings. She picks up, jots something down, and between the call, the note in her hand, and the plate tracing back to Lebendauer Companies, it all clicks. The woman heading for the bank loan was the real target. The rest is just noise to bury the motive. It's starting to feel way out of her depth, even if part of her now believes there's something to what he's saying. He wants her to push further, to dig into whoever ordered the hit, but she's not ready to go that far. She'd rather stick to clearing the man in custody than chase ghosts with him. Sandy is dressed for a night out when Charlie walks up, acting friendly and claiming to be a friend of Jeb's. He tries to steer the conversation toward getting a drink, but she politely declines, saying she's on her way somewhere. That's when the other henchman suddenly lands a hard punch that drops her instantly. While she's down, Charlie covers her nose and mouth and cuts off her air, smothering her until she's gone. That same night, the counselor decides she's staying on the case. She shows up with new info for her lead investigator. She's found a shooting range that matches the kind of precision he's been tracking, and she also plans to dig into Aline Archer's legal files to see if anyone had a grudge against her or her late husband, someone who might have wanted her gone. But he shuts that down quick, warning her that if their theory holds, these people won't think twice about taking her out just for poking around. Emerson processes the crime scene involving Sandy and immediately begins searching for anyone who can take out a life with just a punch. Jack, knowing he's being watched, drives over to Sandy's place and spots her body being wheeled out. The officer sees him parked nearby, and fury starts to boil beneath the surface. The former soldier picks up on it fast and quietly braces to make a run for it if things go south. The cop orders him to step out of the car, but he's not having it, so he throws the gear in reverse and speeds off. That's all the officer needs to brand him a suspect, triggering a full-blown police chase. He slips past the patrol cars coming at him and starts chasing Charlie, who's already fleeing to avoid blowing their cover. Jack rams into them multiple times, trying to force them off the road, but they hang on, refusing to go down easy. With the cops still behind him and him locked on the bad guys, his car stalls briefly but kicks back in, and the chase runs through the city again. Though the suspects manage to give him the slip, he finds an alley he suspects they ducked into, checks it carefully, and spots them. The pursuit spills back onto the main road, but now a chopper is up, flooding the area with its searchlight. They try to box him in at a junction, but he finds a way out and sticks to Charlie's tail. After the others vanish, he wraps up the chase by stepping out of the still-moving car and blending into a waiting crowd of bus passengers, one of whom hands him a cap to help stay low. The cops swarm the vehicle right after, only to find it empty as the bus pulls away with him quietly on board. Emerson and the district attorney show up at Helen's place, pressing her about Jack's identity and current location. She claims to have no idea, but when it starts to feel like they're treating her as an accessory, she snaps, mostly at her father, who reminds her of his warning to stay away from someone like Reacher. While they continue talking, she walks off to take a call. It's the fugitive himself, calmly insisting he's being framed to make him disappear. Still, he says he won't run, and he's staying to fight. He warns her to be careful of the men currently in her apartment, especially the one pretending to care by urging her to stay away from him. What he says starts to click, and when the two men approach to ask who she was speaking with, she simply tells them to leave. Meanwhile, the man heads to the shooting range, where Martin, the owner, welcomes him warmly at first. But once he hears Barr's name, his tone shifts. Jack pushes, even after revealing he's not a cop, and Martin agrees to share what he knows on one condition. He must hit the bullseye 3 times in 3 shots from long range. He accepts the challenge and lines up, recalling Barr's time in Iraq as he fires. He doesn't nail the center each time, but his grouping is solid enough to impress Martin, who agrees to answer one question. He asks who the best shooter the range has ever seen is, and Martin confirms it was James Barr, even bringing out paper targets from past sessions. But the investigator doesn't buy it, as he knows Barr isn't capable of shooting that clean. He suggests that someone else, someone better, made those shots and let Barr take the credit. Martin can't understand why anyone would give up a performance like that, but Jack points out that if the real shooter had a motive, it would make sense. They pull up the ranges, see CTV, and finally spot who regularly came with Barr: Charlie. He quickly collects the targets from the range as evidence and calls Helen to share what he's found, warning her not to trust anyone with the information. But she can't talk as she's sitting across from her father, laying out how deep Lebendauer's corruption runs. She's disturbed that the authorities keep turning a blind eye to the company's mess. Her father speculates the complaints probably came from bitter competitors, which is why no one took them seriously. She pushes back, saying the authorities are either in bed with Lebendauer or too scared to take him on because of what happens to anyone who does. It hits her then that digging up those records under her own name might have exposed her. So, she pulls the daughter card and pleads with her father to put her safety first. He agrees to protect her, but not on her terms. He reaches for the phone to arrange protective custody, though she firmly rejects the offer and storms out. On her way out, she passes a janitor working a vacuum. A few steps later, the sound cuts out, and the man is nowhere in sight. Still, she minds her business and walks to the elevator, where Emerson joins her. The ride is tense. She already feels something's wrong, and she's right. Before she can press a button, the detective grabs her and tases her, dropping her instantly. The elevator doors slide open and 2 men are waiting and drag her away. Meanwhile, Jack calls Helen, but it's Charlie who picks up. She's tied up at some construction site, and he lays it out. Come in an hour, or she gets hurt. But the war vet sees right through it and makes it clear that he could hand over everything from the range to the feds. Before hanging up, he says they can do whatever they want to the lady. That unsettles Zek's shooter, and it terrifies her. He calls again, this time with nothing but a promise that he's going to kill him. Charlie tries to brush it off, but the line cuts again, pushing him further. Then comes a third call, where he lays it out. He has nothing to lose, and the things he'll do if pushed won't be pretty. He's willing to meet. But if he calls again, and Helen doesn't pick up herself, it's over, as he'll vanish. And that's when things get dangerous, because they won't even see him coming. Jack arrives at the location with Martin, who he asked for gun supplies, but the old man shows up with a knife instead, saying he can't hand him a firearm. Still, he's willing to help. Seeing the ex-soldier is a bit rusty. As they settle into position at a vantage point, the old-timer runs through the basics of shooting, giving him a quick refresher. Meanwhile, the lawyer, still tied up, starts questioning Zek's methods, wanting to understand what drives a man like him. But Zek doesn't give real answers, only tries to instill fear. She turns to Emerson, asking why he got himself involved, and he simply says he had no choice. Just as Zek threatens that unless her father backs off the case, things will get worse for both of them. Jack's call comes in, and she answers. He tells her to have faith in herself and in him, and promises things will soon be okay. Then he drives in, reversing down to the yard. As Zek's men catch wind of his arrival, Charlie sets up at a high point to snipe him, but Jack lies low across the seat, not upright as expected, making the first shot miss. The ground shooters open fire, but can't land a hit either. Martin, almost blind and relying on sound, fires toward the chaos, forcing Zek's men to take cover and giving his partner room to move once the car stops. With his car stuck, his goal is to reach the trailer on foot, but he needs the range owner to keep the men distracted. While he dashes between cover, the old man tags one of Zek's men in the arm. The bigger enforcer fires back, trying to get both Martin and Jack, but Reacher surprises him, smashing his head twice with a stone, then finishing off the injured one. Charlie locates the sniper's position and opens fire, but now getting shot at from different directions, and with his gun failing, he bails and hides, giving the ex-soldier time to enter the camper and find out it's empty. Jack sends his partner to drive a dump truck toward the side of the site where Helen's being held to cause confusion. During the distraction, he sneaks in and silently takes out two of Zek's men. Charlie hunts him down under the rain, but it's him who ends up being hunted, as the other guy comes from behind and orders him to drop the weapon. The man ditches his own gun too, wanting to settle it with his hands. He rams into the shooter, smashing him against thick steel, then lands a couple of punches. The last henchman standing manages to fight back with a few hits, but the former soldier regains control, slamming a shot into his leg that makes him scream, followed by another that sends him crashing to the floor. The shooter pulls a knife from his ankle sheath, but the fighter beats him down again, knocks him over, and drives his knee into his face. As he tries to crawl away, the veteran grabs his hand and twists it, drawing a louder scream that makes Emerson tense up where he's hiding. Jack ends it by stomping on the shooter's face and knocking him out. He makes his way to the camper, where the dirty cop is holding Helen. Emerson hides behind her, using the hostage as cover, but the man outside calls him out, saying he's known he was dirty all along. Without wasting time, and in spite of the hostage shield, he shoots the officer dead. Zek stays seated behind, watching while Helen first clears the air, shutting down the idea that her father might have been involved, but that part doesn't really matter to the man with the gun. They walk up to the quiet figure, who finally speaks, saying the name he gave is all he remembers. She gets on the phone to call the police, while Jack tells the old killer what's coming: prison. Zek doesn't think so, claiming the veteran will be the one locked up for murder while he'll pass for an old man in the wrong place. The veteran sees the truth in it and shoots him in the head. The lawyer is stunned, asking how that helps with clearing Barr or even himself, but the man insists justice has been served. She doesn't see how this kind of justice helps anyone legally, but he thinks she's more than capable of handling that part. With the cops now on the way and Martin pushing for them to get out before backup arrives, the two leave. Helen visits Barr at the clinic where he's awake but still hazy and unsure of the full story. In tears, he says he won't fight whatever comes next, even though he didn't do it. To him, it's karma for what he's done in the past. She brings out the crime scene photos and asks him to walk through how he would have handled the operation if he had done it. His description ends up proving her partner's theory right. Her father stands by and hears it all. And even as she promises to get Barr out of the mess, the man in the hospital bed thinks otherwise. He knows he'll never truly be free. Not from the one man who promised to show up the moment he steps out of line, and that's no other than Jack Reacher. Hey guys, usually I make my recaps in 4K quality and always at 60 frames per second, but that takes a ton of extra time to render. Did you enjoy watching this video in 4K at 30 frames per second? Or would you prefer waiting an extra day to get it in full 60 FPS? Please, let me know what you think in the comments. It helps a lot, and thank you so much for all your support.